I must be getting old. Now I'm making sounds when I sit down and when I get up. It's not good. What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today I'm presenting to you the project, what we've been working on this week. You can just barely see the front of it right there as a little teaser. But last week we picked up a 2004 Honda CBR1000RR. So now not only was this the very first year for the modern day CBR1000 that we know and love, but it is my all-time favorite looking sport bike ever made. Well, and the 2003 to 2006 CBR600RR, that and the 2004-2005 CBR1000s look almost identical, but this is back from when super bikes, sport bikes in general, were just absolutely crazy. They were very thrilling with tons of character. You know, it was just a light, crazy, powerful machine with no rider aids whatsoever. So this bike has 172 horsepower, no traction control, no rider modes, no ABS, no wheelie control, launch control, quick shifter. It is 172 horsepower with 2 wheels. So if you've never ridden one, I would definitely pick up an old leader bike. There is just nothing else on the road quite like it. So I had been shopping around for an older CBR, and then I found one. It needed a ton of work. So the bike we picked up, yeah, we got a good deal on it. It was lower than Blue Book, what we paid for it, but it had been down on both sides. You know, the maintenance had been neglected for years on it. The bike itself was just sitting. It hadn't even been on the road for a few years. So we had our work cut out for us. So once we went to go see the bike and I evaluated that the engine, the transmission, the clutch, you know, were still good, we bought it, got it home, and started evaluating what parts we needed to get this bike back in perfect running order, up to date on all maintenance, and we replaced every part that had some curb rash, damage, basically everything we needed to have an immaculate 2004 CBR1000RR. So here I have the list of everything that I replaced on this bike. I mean, it's quite the long list, so I put $1,500 into this machine. So here is what I got and replaced. We did exhaust, spark plugs, air filters, brake pads, all the reservoirs, clutch, front brake, rear brake. We did a coolant flush and filled it back up with Honda HP coolant, a brake flush, front and rear. We flushed the clutch as well. That was full of surprises. Grips and bar ends, and I went with the factory style grips. We did new fork seals and fork oil, tires, front and rear, chain and sprockets, and I kept it with the factory gearing. All new fairings, tail light, rear sets. We put some frame sliders on it and rear swing arm spools, mirrors, seats. I went through the whole fuel system, drained the gas tank because the gas was 3 years old, and I cleaned out every line, fuel rail, injector, new windscreen, headlights, levers, and I replaced every fastener and bolt that we took off as we were giving this whole thing a facelift. The wiring on it was all chopped up and was crazy because it had a underglow lighting system on it, and just all kinds of wires were cut. I mean, it was just a whole Frankenstein job. Nobody has ever put their hands on this bike in its entire life that knew what they were doing. But now all the wiring, all the electrical systems on this bike is perfectly factory connections. Everything is routed and in the right place that it would have been when this bike rolled out of the factory. And then I finished with some new smoked turn signals. So quite a bit. We did quite a bit, and all of those parts together, even the tires included, came to $1,500. And actually it was a little bit less than $1,500. It was about $1,430, I believe. You know, that's certainly a way to get yourself a killer sport bike. If you just pick up something that needs some work, you're gonna pay a lower price. And if you're willing to put in the time, you could get whatever parts you want, totally customize that bike to be your dream bike. So it's very, very cool. I am so pleased with how this bike turned out, and it runs and rides literally like it was brand new. So now, folks, I present to you our totally refreshed 2004 CBR1000RR that we have breathed new life into. So let's take a look at it. Oh, baby. There she is. Holy frickin' moly. That right there is an incredible looking motorcycle. Well, and we'll just do a 360 right off the bat, and then I'll kind of go into detail on all the parts and everything that we replaced and why I did what I did. This thing is just too cool. It's so cool to see a 2004 CBR that just has been totally refreshed. I mean, everything on this I just about put my hands on. The profile from the front, just insane. Well, so now we'll go into some more detail, and I'll just start at the front of the motorcycle here. We kind of turned it so the sun hits it in a different light. But as far as the headlights go, you know, they have these LED halo aftermarket lights, but I've always liked just the original lights on these. Just that chrome mirrored housing in there. You know, I think these bikes always had a very aggressive looking front end, and so I wanted to retain that. Now the fairings, yes, we did a carbon looking fairing kit. It's 100% fake carbon fiber. We did not want to bury ourselves in a 2004, but I mean, from even 4 foot away, like I can almost just reach out and kick the bike here, but from 4 feet away, it does look like real carbon fiber. I mean, you really have to get in here to notice that it is not. And it's just one of those things. I had to try it. I had to see for myself and know. And I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And it's almost required that you do a smoked, blacked out windscreen on these. That windscreen is the factory shape though. It's not a Corsa, it's not a double bubble. I always liked the lower profile factory shape on those. And then the mirrors, we did the knockoff Rizomas, and actually I am so pleased with those. So you can fold them like so, and then they kind of look like a winglet, or you can have them folded out so it's an actual practical mirror. And I thought visibility was going to be nil on those. It's actually not too bad, and there's plenty of adjustment that you can get those at the right angle so you can actually still see behind you. Now, one thing I'll mention as we're looking around the bike, so on a lot of the fairings I did black bolts. So I got a black bolt kit and a chrome bolt kit. The only chrome bolts or stainless color bolts I have are up around the windscreen and the mirrors. Everything else I just did black bolts because it blended in with that carbon a little bit better. So we did brand new Shinko Apex tires. Those are a fairly aggressive sport tire. They have excellent grip. You can see the little knobbies. I've only taken this out on one test drive so far, but very pleased with those. And if you watched our first video, the evaluation of this bike, these forks were just dumping oil, and we replaced the fork seals. I put down to the milliliter the factory spec of 10 weight oil, and everything is bone dry on there. It is awesome. That's what you want to see. Nothing. Now, as far as levers, grips, bar ends, you know, I just went with the factory spec grips. I like the shape of the factory levers, but I did go with a black lever. The factory ones are going to be an aluminum, a stainless color, but the black just matched our build a little bit better. And then the bar ends, I went with a factory shape bar end. They do say CBR on here, so they're not the OEM bar ends, but I really wanted the factory shape at a good price, and so we ended up going with those. And then all of our brand new reservoirs, you know, we did some new tubing and everything, and clamps where applicable, and flushing all those fluids. Oh my gosh, the fluids were so bad, but now everything is just brand new. The view from the cockpit on this is just beautiful. Holy moly. The blacked out look and then those blade-like mirrors. And then the look of that carbon is just great when the sunlight hits it. It's so glossy. And then I did brand new seats, front and rear. I do just have the cowl on the rear for now, but I do have a new pillion seat as well. It slightly varies from the stock seat in that it has a little bit of a ridge, a little bit of a seam, and a back on it here where the factory one never did. Now we did throw some no-cut sliders on there, so they have a little rod here that goes up and bolts to one of the frame bolts, or one of the engine bolts rather, right here. But with that little bracket coming down, and then you put your frame slider on there, you know, of course I didn't want to cut any of our new fairings, so that was a great option, and of course we got black ones as well. And then with all of the rear sets and foot controls, I just went with factory spec stuff. Now we could have gone with black, gold, red. I mean, there's a million different colors we could have got those in, but I just wanted that brushed aluminum, that nickel look, because the color of the engine, you know, the factory exhaust guard, the swing arm here was all that brushed aluminum look, and so it looks tasteful. And then there's that replaced rear brake reservoir there. Now another thing I'll say is that all the vents in our tail and in that cowl up there, of course I wanted the cowl that had the two vents in it as well. It just looks so aggressive. But the plastics in here are very black. The chrome mesh grills, you know, they look really nice. So I love the tails on those, and I like that it comes to such a sharp point at the tip too. I mean, it's just like a blade. So of course I wanted an exhaust that came to a similar point up here. So this is kind of the no-name eBay knockoff Tosh exhaust, because Tosh always made an exhaust for these that looks almost identical to this. You know, it's the dual exhaust there, it has the slash cut, but the actual full Tosh exhaust for this bike is $1,300, and I paid $271 for that. And it sounds phenomenal. Now with that exhaust, I was able to retain the factory exhaust heat shield here. All I had to do was just grab this down here and bend it out about 1/4 of an inch. So, and that's very soft, it's very pliable, it was easy to do that. And then for the rear swing arm spools here, I went with something that was a little bit further out, a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, so that that can actually function as a slider as well, if we do ever drop the bike. For the rear tire, it's the same as the front, the Shinko Apex. Now the factory size is 190/50/17, and I went with a 190/55. So our tire is going to be a little bit taller than factory, but that gives you more contact patch when you're down in the curves on either side. Because in my old age, I do enjoy the twisties now. Now as far as a taillight, I just went with a smoked flush LED taillight here. It does have the rear signals integrated, so those flash yellow on either side. Otherwise, you know, you just get red across the whole thing, and that just looks so seamless with kind of our dark colored carbon fairings and that black exhaust. Very, very pleased. And then our new chain and sprockets, like I said, factory gearing. Of course, I wanted to go with an aluminum colored rear sprocket with a black chain. I mean, you can get chains every color of the rainbow, but I figured the black with the aluminum sprocket was the way to go. But yeah, everything turned out so good. And all the fit and finish of the fairings, you know, I was a little bit worried at first with those being just an eBay fairing kit, but all of the lines, the fit and finish across everything is just, I mean, it looks factory. It looks so good. All of the seams and everything, and then it came with the little plastic parts, you know, that slip on the inside here. Just a great fit and finish for all of it. Wow. Well, and so we better fire it up because somebody's probably going to be beside themselves if they don't get to hear it. Well, and this will be a good chance to show you that taillight then. give it a few RPMs just to make sure it still sounds good. Sounds pretty silly, just a very brutal, raw, pure sound. Well, and so that is our totally refreshed, revamped, 20-plus-year-old leader bike. So it runs like it's brand new. Everything is perfectly to the factory spec it was when this rolled out of the dealership in 2004. And yes, it is fast as lightning. So now I've got a bunch of different videos planned for this, different rides and reviews of what these first leader bikes were like. They were just so crazy and such a different animal. You know, some of these first generation leader bikes, the true leader bikes, the R1s, the CBRs, the ZX10s, the GSXRs, I mean, they were getting called Widowmakers because they were just so brutal and so raw. You know, all that power with 0 rider modes and almost no restrictions whatsoever. It literally took an expert level rider to stay alive on one of these. But otherwise, yeah, I'm very pleased with how all of this turned out, and everything now is up to date. I mean, every fluid flush, the spark plugs, the air filters, I checked the valve clearance, they're perfect. Tires, exhaust, electrical system, grips, I mean, everything is brand new on this bike. The wheels are the only thing I didn't replace. From the bike being laid over, you know, there's a few different scratches and scuffs, so I'm probably just gonna repaint those black. So super fun, you know. If you have $5,000, definitely know that you can get one of these old sport bikes, you can bring it back to life, and at any point you could always sell it and never lose a penny. So I am positive that our ownership of this motorcycle is going to be completely free. I'll always be able to sell it for what I have into it. And it is borderline one of the craziest toys to have for the summer, but we will be careful, we will be responsible on it. Maybe, most days, some days. So comment if you guys have any questions at all. Otherwise, like the video if this helped you out, subscribe if you want to see more, and until next time, have a wonderful night, guys.